I got one question for you Vikings fans before we hop into today's show. Will Kirk Cousins be the quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings next season? This is a hot topic on Vikings media everywhere. But let me know your thoughts down in the comment section. Why for yes and for no if Kirk Cousins will be the QB for our Vikings next season. Coming up on today's edition of Vikings Now by Chat Sports, we're going over 4 quarterbacks the Vikings could draft that could obviously be the Kirk Cousins replacement. Then also in the second half of today's show, we're going to give you the latest around Kirk Cousins, and he had some interesting comments about his no-trade clause. So make sure you guys stick around to the end to get the update on that. But my name is Patrick Siepman, and welcome in. But let's start off talking about the number 1 quarterback draft prospect and we have seen probably since Andrew Luck. That's Caleb Williams, and I was going to include him on this list, but let's just call a spade here. And before we start, it is unlikely that the Vikings will have a chance to get Caleb Williams for 2 reasons. I think the Vikings are going to end up winning about maybe 6 to 10 games this season, depending on where the football goes in a couple of games. And also, the Chicago Bears are going to have the first 2 picks most likely in the NFL draft. Shout out the Carolina Panthers for that one. So I don't expect the Bears, even if they do not draft Caleb Williams and they do want to trade that number 1 overall pick, I really don't think that they would ever send Caleb Williams in the division. So that's why he is not on this list. We're going to be going over more realistic options. I think one of the most realistic ones is J.J. McCarthy, the quarterback out of Michigan, who's been having an absolute great year. And I'm a big fan of the way J.J. plays the game. He's an extremely intelligent quarterback. He actually has some underrated mobility, a sneaky athlete. And the reason I have J.J. number 1 on this list is I do think he is the most realistic choice. Obviously, the Minnesota Vikings, I don't think they're going to be drafting in the top 4. You're sitting at 2-4 right now, but the schedule does get a lot easier. But if you're talking about quarterbacks maybe in that 7 to 15 range, JJ might be our guy. And the thing that stands out to me the most about Mr. McCarthy is the 78.2% completion percentage. Absolutely ridiculous. He's been a great quarterback for Michigan this season. Over 1,500 yards, 14 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions for JJ this season. He's off to one of the best starts for a Big Ten quarterback in conference play. He actually might break Justin Fields' records if they do go undefeated and end up beating Penn State. But it was actually The Athletic that ended up mocking JJ to the Minnesota Vikings at number 10 in their most recent mock draft. It's actually from The Athletic's second team. This is not Dane Brugler, but it's actually Nick Baumgartner, who had this to say about the Vikings potentially drafting J.J. McCarthy. He said this: "There's potentially an intriguing world awaiting a young quarterback in Minnesota. Wide receivers, Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, and T.J. Hawkinson as pass-catching weapons, an offensive tackle like Christian Darrisaw blocking for you. And right now, McCarthy leads all FBS passers in EPA per dropback. Despite playing in Michigan's run-heavy attack, his efficiency also has been very consistent outside of one poor showing. And he's still just 20 years old." Listen, I'm a big fan of J.J. McCarthy, and actually a fun fact, he actually ended up going to my high school. When I was a senior in high school, J.J. was a freshman. I remember catching footballs from him when he was a 14-year-old, and I was thinking this guy is the absolute real deal. Class act, really well spoken at the podium. Honestly, everything you would want out of a franchise quarterback in the NFL, I think J.J. checks those boxes. But in terms of what type of support system the Vikings could offer a young quarterback coming into the league, I think they have one of the best support systems out of any situation in the NFL right now. You obviously have an elite number 1 wide receiver in Justin Jefferson. I think he's the best weapon in football right now. He's one of the best players in the league. You got 2 elite offensive tackles. Christian Darrisaw, the number 1 rated left tackle according to PFF. Brian O'Neill, the number 1 rated right tackle according to PFF on the season. You also got Kevin O'Connell, a young offensive-minded head coach. And then you also have T.J. Hawkinson. I put star tight end. He right now is the highest paid tight end in the league. But obviously us Vikings fans have had a ton of problems with T.J. Hawkinson, with drops, with him just not really finishing runs. So I put star tight end, but he's still a great safety blanket. Then you also drafted that guy out of USC last season, Jordan Addison. So I think in terms of support system for JJ, I think the Vikings could be a great option. But number 2 for me is the quarterback out of North Carolina, Drake Maye. listen, I'm a big fan of Drake Maye. Drake Maye, if Caleb Williams wasn't in this draft, Drake Maye would be the no doubt number 1 overall pick. But the problem with Drake Maye, and maybe this isn't necessarily a problem with him, but a problem with where the Vikings are, you would need to trade up. And I go back to the point about the Bears having the top 2 picks in this draft. I'm telling you, even though Kwesi has traded in the division before, it's going to be tough to trade up to that number 2 or number 1 overall pick, because I don't think the Bears would want to send this guy in the division. I mean, this year he's been fantastic yet again. I mean, over 1,900 yards, 12 touchdowns, 4 picks. You guys see the stats on screen. Drake Maye is a great prospect, and he reminds me a lot of actually a young Justin Herbert. I've seen a lot of NFL draft analysis kind of give that comparison, and I see it completely. Like, I see the Drake Maye, Justin Herbert comparison. They got these big-time arms, kind of big stature quarterbacks, incredibly intelligent as well. Drake Maye would be another great choice, but I want to toss it your guys' way, and I want you to consider this as well. Pick a QB for me. However, you would have to trade up for Drake Maye, so keep that in mind. But type JJ if you guys would rather have the Vikings maybe sit at maybe 7 to 15 and draft a kid out of Michigan, or would you want them to trade up to number 2 or number 3 overall and take this guy, Drake Maye? Give me a DM down in the comments section. Listen, with the Vikings, their current situation right now with Kirk Cousins on this 1-year deal, I think it's almost going unlikely that he will be the quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings next season. Listen, there's going to be a lot of debate this offseason. Should they bring him back? Will the grass be greener? We've heard the whole talk, but maybe they could be looking at a guy out of Texas like Quinn Ewers. And you guys see the buzz cut in the photo right now. Funny enough, Quinn Ewers used to have this mullet rocking, but he kind of changed his whole vibe, changed his whole energy this offseason. He's rocking the buzz. He's gotten big into meditation and everything, actually very similar to J.J. McCarthy on there. But Quinn Ewers is an interesting prospect for me because I feel like he's got a ton of hills and valleys in his game. Because you watch him against Alabama this year on the road. He goes and beats the number 1 team in the country, and you're like, oh, wow, this guy could easily be a top 10 pick in this year's draft. But then again, he'll have his down games. He'll have the valley games where he doesn't really live up to that former 5-star recruit coming out of high school. But the stats really don't lie with him. I mean, 70% completion percentage, 1,700 yards, 11 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. However, I kind of have mixed emotions and mixed feelings about Quinn Ewers. I feel like it could be one of those situations where if he gets in the right system, and maybe the Vikings are that right system, he could be incredibly successful. But let's just say the Vikings lose some of these key pieces like Darrisaw or O'Neal, and they're not able to retain a couple of these guys since they do have contract extensions coming. Quinn Ewers goes to a situation where he needs to be the man. I don't think it would be the best situation for him. So I'm kind of still out on Quinn Ewers. Jury's still out on him a little bit, but I'm not too sure how to feel about him just yet. But still to come, just around the corner. I got one more quarterback, one more QB that you guys are going to want to know about for the Vikings that they could potentially draft. Then also, we had the latest round Kirk Cousins because he pretty much, I'm not going to say it just yet, but he had something to say about his no trade clause. But first, I do want to give a big time shout out to a new sponsor we have here at Vikings Now, PrizePicks. I've been having a ton of fun playing PrizePicks this season, and it is daily fantasy made easy. PrizePicks is the largest independently owned daily fantasy sports platform in North America, and it is the easiest and most exciting way to play DFS. It's just you against the numbers. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. Instead of battling versus thousands of other players, including pros and sharks, you just select 2 or more players, pick more or less on their projected stat types, and place your entry. Quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and enormous selection of players and stat types are what makes PrizePicks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. And this week in the NFL, I'm riding with the quarterbacks. I think there's going to be a lot of yards put up. So I'm taking the more on Josh Allen, Tua, and Jalen Hurts on all of their passing yards this weekend. Hey, this Sunday night game, Eagles, Dolphins, I think it's going to be a shootout. So you guys need to get involved in on the fun. You guys can ride my picks or fade my picks, but make sure you guys do it at prizepicks.com/CLNS. One more time, go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use that code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. I'll put that link for you guys in the comment section and the description of today's video. But the last QB prospect we're going to be looking at today is Michael Penix Jr. I'm a big fan of this guy out of Washington, the lefty gunslinger, killing it up there in the Northeast. And listen, Michael Penix, he started off in Indiana for his first part of his career, dealt with injuries, but then really when he went to Washington, he was fantastic. I mean, he really took this another level. He is throwing to 2 NFL wide receivers on the year, but man, numbers don't lie with him, and he's really setting himself up to potentially win a Heisman. But completion percentage is there. A deadly accurate quarterback. I mean, throwing for already 2,300 yards in 6 games this season is absolutely ridiculous. Touchdown to interception ratio, what you would want to see out of a college prospect. But he's got a big-time arm, the big-time lefty out of Washington. I'm a fan of his game, but, the thing is with Michael Penix is, I swear it's kind of like seeing, a lefty quarterback. It always kind of gets me a little gun-shy taking these guys, even though it really shouldn't, but that's just kind of how my mindset goes, where it's like, man, if Michael Penix was a righty, I wonder how I would look at him a little differently. But, hey, right now, he's the overwhelming favorite to win the Heisman. Obviously, with J.J. McCarthy on there as well, who we were talking about, but he is minus 130 right now to win. So he's setting himself up nice. Also with guys like Dillon Gabriel, Jordan Travis, and Jayden Daniels following Michael Penix and JJ as well. But those are 4 guys that we went over that the Vikings could draft. Again, I think it's incredibly unlikely that Caleb Williams could ever end up in the purple and gold. Obviously, it's a fever dream. I would love to have him, but would the Bears ever send Caleb Williams in this division? I just really doubt it. I just don't think that is a possibility. But, hey, JJ, I think he's the most likely option for the Minnesota Vikings. Drake Maye, again, little unlikely. It's just going to depend if the Bears would ever send a guy like that to a team in the division. But we'll obviously have to wait and see. And if you guys want to stay up to date on all the latest Vikings quarterback rumors, this is a big-time offseason for our Vikes. With Kirk Cousins on that 1-year expiring deal and question marks all over this roster, make sure you guys stay up to date. Hit that subscribe button. Make us your go-to Minnesota Vikings YouTube channel. We do it better than everybody else, so make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel. Let's talk about it. The latest with Kirk Cousins as we kick it to Adam Scheafter here. As this broke a couple days ago, as he said, Vikings quarterback Kirk Cousins is expected to remain in Minnesota this season and will not look to waive the no-trade clause in his contract, short of changing unforeseen circumstances. So that little last part, short of changing unforeseen circumstances, listen, anything can happen. And I think if the Vikings would have lost to the Bears this Sunday, I think there would have been a great chance that they would have been looking to ship him. And listen, we've heard about other teams wanting to get involved with the Kirk Cousins sweepstakes. We even heard the Atlanta Falcons were kind of a shocker team that could get involved with Kirk Cousins. But some Kirk Cousins trade destinations. I think the number one team, no doubt, it's got to be the New York Jets, man. I mean, they obviously lost Aaron Rodgers. They got a tremendous roster over there in New York with a great defense, got great weapons in Garrett Wilson. That's a team that I'm keeping my eye on. And also the Pittsburgh Steelers, again, same situation. Great defense, good weapons, not too happy with that quarterback play. And then also the Denver Broncos. I think this is an interesting one as well. Sean Payton's going to want to get his hands on a solid quarterback eventually in his tenure in Denver. Will he want to wait for a rookie quarterback to develop, or would he want to go with the solid veteran in Kirk? Same thing with Washington. Maybe Eric Bieniemy wants a more consistent quarterback instead of Sam Howell, who's actually played pretty well this year. And then this one I love, man, the New England Patriots. Could Kirk Cousins be the next Tom Brady in New England? Probably not, but maybe New England says we don't want to go down that rookie QB route after Mac Jones. Give me the solid veteran again. But Kirk, listen, these numbers have been pretty freaking good this year. Obviously, the turnovers have been an issue and fumbles have been an issue as well, but he's second in the league in passing. He's got 14 passing touchdowns, and he has not been the reason why the Vikings have been losing games. But we know what Kirk Cousins is. Kirk Cousins can win you games. If you have a good roster, he can go out there and get the job done and run an offense to the highest level. But the problem with Kirk Cousins, he can't be the reason you win games. Kirk Cousins, he is that guy where if the offense and the play is set up perfectly and he just needs to hit his target right on time, he can do it. But once the play breaks down and he has to get out of the pocket and make a play in a little backyard football action, that's where Kirk Cousins struggles. I think that we already know who he is. Obviously, he's been playing in the league for over a decade now. We know what he is. He's a good quarterback, but he can't be the reason you win games. But I'm kind of curious what you guys have to say on this. What type of haul do you think the Vikings could get for Kirk Cousins? Obviously, he's got a 1-year deal, but quarterbacks, they're obviously, the prized possession in the NFL. What do you guys think? What type of haul could the Vikings get for Kirk? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments section. And always, make sure you guys are subscribed. Any QB rumors that come out, we're going to have you guys covered. Also, we're going to be going live for the Vikings 49ers Monday Night Football game an hour before kickoff. So make sure you guys tune in. Our watch parties are a ton of fun. We have a couple drinks, do a little live play-by-play. So make sure you guys subscribe. Stay in the loop. See you guys next time. Skol Vikes, baby.